Hey folks, before we dive in, just a quick reminder to follow SkyAlert USA so you can catch this and all our future updates. If you like what you see, please support us by subscribing, giving us a thumbs up and dropping a comment. We really appreciate your support. What you're about to see is not normal. What happened to the United States and Canada over the past 4 days is already being written into the history books. And it is not over yet. Welcome back to SkyAlert USA, your #1 source for severe weather coverage across North America. I'm your host, and today, February 26th, 2026, we have a massive amount of ground to cover. From a record-shattering blizzard that just hammered the entire northeast corridor, to new winter storm systems already forming and threatening to strike again in the coming days, to critical fire weather conditions in the southern plains, and record-breaking heat in the desert southwest. This is truly one of the most complex and dangerous weather weeks this country has seen in years. Stay with us because there is something in this report for every single state in America. Let's get started. Let's begin with the big story, the one that has been dominating headlines since this past weekend. From February 22nd through February 24th, 2026, a historic and crippling blizzard, informally named Winter Storm Hernando by the Weather Channel, caused extensive impacts across the northeastern United States, dropping 2 to 3 feet of snow across much of the megalopolis and bringing hurricane-force wind gusts and coastal flooding to shorelines throughout the region. This storm was born out of a shortwave trough that first moved ashore along the west coast on February 20th. It rapidly crossed the Rockies, consolidated energy, and exploded into a bomb cyclone off the southeast coast. And then it turned its fury directly on the most densely populated corridor in the entire United States. Let's talk about the numbers, because the numbers are absolutely staggering. Parts of New York City recorded up to 19 inches of snow at Central Park, with Washington Heights seeing 22.1 inches and Sheepshead Bay in Brooklyn hitting 22.5 inches. Newark Liberty International Airport recorded more than 27 inches of snow, breaking records. In New Jersey, widespread totals topped 2 feet east of Interstate 95, with the highest reading reaching over 30.7 inches in Lyndhurst. And then there is Providence, Rhode Island, a city that just rewrote its weather history forever. Providence saw more than 32 inches of snow fall during this storm, surpassing the 28.6 inches recorded during the infamous blizzard of 1978. A record that had stood for nearly 50 years. The governor of Rhode Island himself called it the biggest snowstorm the state had ever seen. The power outages and travel chaos were equally historic. More than 600,000 utility customers lost power across the Northeast. New Jersey, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut all declared states of emergency, imposing commercial vehicle bans and strict travel restrictions. Thousands of people abandoned their vehicles on highways and interstates, forcing emergency responders to navigate dangerous conditions just to reach those stranded. At the airports, the situation was catastrophic. By February 23rd, 958 flights had been cancelled at Boston's Logan International Airport alone. Rhode Island's T.F. Green International Airport suspended all operations entirely. Across the entire northeast corridor, the disruption to air travel affected hundreds of thousands of passengers. The storm explosively deepened to a pressure of 966 millibars by midday on February 23rd, generating heavy snow and hurricane-force wind gusts across southeastern New England. Wellfleet, Massachusetts recorded a peak wind gust of 98 miles per hour, near Category 2 hurricane strength, causing severe property damage. Thundersnow was reported along the south shore of New England, a rare phenomenon that underscores just how intense the atmospheric instability was during this event. This was not just a northeast story. Environment and Climate Change Canada issued orange-level winter storm warnings for much of Nova Scotia, with winds forecast to exceed 80 kilometers per hour. Municipal offices, facilities and libraries in Halifax were shut down, school districts across Nova Scotia closed early, and emergency power crews went on high alert. Thousands of customers in Nova Scotia were without power by the evening of February 23rd. In Atlantic Canada, Moncton, New Brunswick saw 27 centimeters of snow combined with wind gusts reaching 70 to 90 kilometers per hour. Newfoundland and Labrador were under coastal flood advisories and blowing snow warnings. This blizzard truly was a North American event. Now let's talk about what is happening right now, today, on February 26th. Because even after the blizzard of 2026, the atmosphere is not calming down. A series of clipper systems continues to move through the central and eastern United States, delivering additional rounds of snowfall. Post-frontal lake effect snow is continuing off Lake Superior and Lake Ontario, with significant snow banding developing over the Tug Hill Plateau in upstate New York. Probabilities for 4 or more additional inches of snow remain at 40 to 60% across these areas today. In the Great Lakes region, residents who are already exhausted from weeks of winter weather are being warned that lake-effect snow will persist through today and into tomorrow, especially in the lee of Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. These narrow but intense snow bands can drop 12 to 18 inches of additional snow in just a few hours, so even localized areas need to remain on high alert. Meanwhile, in a dramatic contrast, the western United States is experiencing something entirely different. Well above average temperatures are expanding across much of the west, into the Plains states, and across the southeast. Parts of Arizona and Southern California are seeing temperatures surpassing 90 degrees Fahrenheit, potentially breaking daily records in the desert southwest. This extreme temperature contrast between the frozen northeast and the scorching southwest is part of what makes this weather pattern so unusual and so dangerous. In the southern high plains, covering areas of West Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma, meteorologists are issuing critical fire weather warnings today. The combination of extreme heat, low humidity, and strong gusty winds creates perfect conditions for explosive wildfire development. Residents in these areas are urged not to burn anything outdoors and to be prepared for rapidly spreading fires. To understand why we have seen so many major winter storms this season, we need to look at the bigger picture. And that means talking about the polar vortex. New forecasts confirmed a polar vortex split and collapse in mid-February 2026, following a major stratospheric warming event. The latest predictions showed a breakdown of the polar circulation, creating a prolonged cold weather pattern across North America and Europe, with early signs suggesting impacts could last into early spring. What this means in practical terms is that the wall of cold air that normally stays locked in the Arctic has been punctured. Arctic air has been pouring southward into the United States and Canada in repeated waves all winter long, fueling storm after storm. A disrupted polar vortex core has been driving cold conditions across the US and Canada, with high-resolution model data showing a breakdown of the polar circulation that has created a prolonged release of cold air across North America. This is why we have seen so many historic storms this season. This is why Providence just broke a 48-year snowfall record. This is why the eastern half of the country has been locked in one brutal winter pattern after another since late January. The polar vortex disruption also clashed with the Madden-Julian oscillation, a powerful tropical atmospheric wave, which temporarily shielded parts of the central and eastern United States from the full force of the stratospheric collapse, leading to periodic warm spells even as cold air dominated the overall pattern. But this interference was not expected to be permanent. The bottom line, the atmosphere is in a highly dynamic, unsettled state, and that means more significant weather events are likely in the days ahead. Let's go state by state across the regions for your 3-day outlook. Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Recovery from the blizzard of 2026 continues. But don't put the snow shovels away yet. Pacific shortwave energy and moisture may overrun a colder air mass Sunday into Tuesday, bringing a new wintry precipitation threat to portions of the Mississippi Valley into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Forecasters are closely watching this developing system. The models are not in perfect agreement yet, but the potential for another round of significant winter precipitation in this region, still buried in feet of snow, cannot be dismissed. Residents from Washington, D.C. to Boston should monitor their local National Weather Service alerts very carefully over the next 48 to 72 hours. Great Lakes and Midwest. Lake effect snow continues to be the main story through Saturday. A strong cold front and Arctic high pressure will move into the northern tier over the weekend, bringing even colder temperatures to the Great Lakes region and the Midwest. Wind chills in northern Michigan, Wisconsin and Minnesota could drop to dangerous levels, well below 0 Fahrenheit. Frost and freeze conditions are expected to push southward into parts of the Ohio Valley. The South finally, the South gets a break. After weeks of ice storms, historic snow in Tennessee and Mississippi, and brutal cold stretching to the Gulf Coast, milder air is expected to return to the southeastern United States through the weekend. However, the threat of severe thunderstorms remains in the forecast for parts of the Gulf Coast states, as warm, moist air returning from the Gulf clashes with still cold air entrenched to the north. The plains. The temperature contrast across the plains will be dramatic. Northern tier states, including the Dakotas, Nebraska and Kansas, will see a fresh shot of Arctic air arrive by Saturday. Meanwhile, Oklahoma and Texas will see warmer, drier conditions. But that brings the continued critical fire weather threat. Outdoor burning bans are strongly recommended across the southern high plains through at least the weekend. The Southwest and California. The ridge of high pressure dominating the west continues to bring record warm, record dry conditions. Phoenix, Las Vegas and Los Angeles are all expected to see temperatures running 10 to 20 degrees above normal through at least Sunday. This extreme warmth is also accelerating snowpack melt in the Sierra Nevada, which could create runoff and flooding concerns in California's Central Valley early next week. Atlantic Canada is still recovering from Winter Storm Hernando, with power restoration efforts ongoing across Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. Parts of Newfoundland and Labrador remain under ongoing advisories. In Ontario and Quebec, a brief, milder period is expected this weekend before another cold reinforcement arrives early next week from the north. British Columbia remains under its own weather watch as Pacific systems continue to target the coast with heavy rain and mountain snow. We want to close this report with the most critical warning information you need to know right now. Critical fire weather warning. Southern High Plains, West Texas, eastern New Mexico, Oklahoma Panhandle through today and Saturday. Winds gusting 40 to 60 miles per hour, relative humidity dropping below 10%, temperatures in the 80s and low 90s. Extreme fire danger. Do not light any open flames outdoors. Dangerous cold and wind chill advisory. Northern Great Lakes, Upper Midwest, and Northern New England. Temperatures dropping to -10 to -25 Fahrenheit, with wind chills reaching -30 to -45 possible Saturday night into Sunday morning. Frostbite can occur on exposed skin in under 10 minutes. Stay indoors. Winter storm watch. Mississippi Valley through the Mid-Atlantic and parts of the Northeast, Sunday through Tuesday. Monitor closely. A new winter storm system may bring additional snow, sleet and ice accumulation to regions still buried from the blizzard of 2026. Lake effect snow advisory. Tug Hill Plateau, eastern upper peninsula of Michigan, western New York, and northeast Ohio through Saturday evening. Additional accumulations of 8 to 18 inches possible in the heaviest snow bands. The federal government has already approved 12 emergency declarations stemming from the January winter storm impacts, with FEMA disaster assistance approved for Tennessee and Mississippi. Communities are still in active recovery mode, even as new threats emerge. This has been your February 26, 2026 SkyAlert USA full weather report. The blizzard of 2026 may have ended, but the weather story across this country is far from over. New systems are forming, new records may be broken, and the polar vortex disruption that has fueled this relentless winter is not done with us yet. Please, check on your neighbors. Share this video with your family. Make sure you have an emergency kit ready. And hit that subscribe button so you never miss a critical weather update from SkyAlert USA. Stay safe, stay prepared.